is Hoosier Ag This Week. Welcome to our weekly review of Indiana agriculture. I'm Andy Eubank from Hoosier Ag Today, and we're going to run down the week in farm news and farm markets. As we kick off today, you'll hear from another farm operation on last week's Purdue tour. There are also new master farmers. Hat Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin outlines what's next in the new Indiana farm forecast after, for some, a very wet week. We have a couple of crop updates, proposed ag legislation in D.C., and a former ag secretary puts executive orders in perspective. Let's get started. Last week's Purdue Farm Management Tour stopped in Evansville. At the farm of Indiana, Farm Bureau President Randy Crone, Eric Pfeiffer was there.
With Randy being away from the farm frequently on Farm Bureau business, many of the responsibilities fall to his wife Joyce and son Ben. Joyce says they're a good team.
It's myself, Ben, full-time, and then we have a guy who we've been very fortunate, been with us for 28 years, and so we've worked together for a lot of years. I think we make a really good team, and everybody kind of has their thing that they do, and it just seems to have worked out really well for us. And it's really nice, when Randy and I have done all these years and all the time and effort you put into it, it's nice to see your son come in and take over.
Last year, Ben placed first in the National Corn Growers Association National Corn Yield Contest in the irrigated strip-till corn category, achieving 367 bushels per acre. So, naturally, I asked him if he would share his recipe for success.
Yes, is a proper application of certain nutrients at an exact time.
Okay, so he's not going to give away all his trade secrets. He did say that the contest was a good learning experience and is helping them make decisions on the rest of their corn.
There's obviously a lot of different applications we make, and through it we were able to figure out which of these really paid and which of them we were doing just because it was a high yield contest. So there was a lot of different things and applications and timings of applications that we were able to tweak and change, and actually made us a lot more efficient in what we're doing.
During the Purdue Farm Management Tour, Randy spoke about the importance of getting involved and establishing relationships with government officials.
It might be at your county level, county commissioners, county council, area plan, but also at your state level and national level. There are people that are going to speak on your behalf, and they're not looking out for your best interest. And I can't stress enough that people need to stand up and have their voice heard, tell their story. So having a relationship with legislators that they trust you, and when it's an agriculture issue, I'd like them talking to a farmer to get the information, not from somebody else and their perspective.
Randy has served as president of Indiana Farm Bureau for the past 5 years. I'm Eric Pfeiffer.
Corn and soybean crops in north central Indiana are in pretty good shape as we hit the middle of July.
Tell you what, things are looking pretty solid out there.
That's Daniel Stauffer, Specialty Hybrids, local field sales representative.
Growers are pretty excited with where we stand right now. Long way to go, obviously. But from where we started with varying planting dates and moisture levels and just the cool temperatures this spring, the crop got started on a lot of different dates. But right now, things have greened up for the most part, especially the corn's looking real good. Guys are real excited with that.
He said soybeans are now coming along nicely too, and growers are getting more optimistic about that crop. In corn, Stauffer says variability in planting dates and rainfall is resulting in variability in corn tasseling.
Tassel shooting at different times or unevenly in the fields as you're driving around. You see that quite a bit. And so that causes some challenges for guys on when to do that fungicide application in the corn. But also maybe expands the window of pollination by having those tassels shooting a little differently. No, it's not perfect. It's not ideal, but that's a benefit that could come from it, is the longer window in that corn.
And he says there are different approaches to when those corn fungicides are being applied.
Some guys are doing it right before pollination, but others are going to wait till beginning brown silk or full brown silk to get as much residual activity out of their fungicide applications when they do that.
Weed pressure is being held in check this year. Insect outbreaks also seem to be minimal, but there is frog eye leaf spot reported in soybeans. And Purdue says northwest Indiana is seeing some tar spot in corn. This crop update has been brought to you by Specialty Hybrids, where it's your field, our specialty. Find your local field sales representative online at specialtyhybrids.com and hear the full interview at HoosierAgToday.com. When planning to repair or renovate a farm or home accessory building, there are many factors to consider. Dan Nyberg, training manager for Morton Buildings, offers some helpful guidelines to help your building look new again. Dan?
Well, first of all, make a realistic evaluation of the cost and the ultimate use of the building. Will the end result provide the best solution for your building use for the long term? Or would it be more cost effective to construct a new building? Be sure that every estimate for work includes a very clear and a complete scope of work. What is included and what is not? For any portion of the work you expect to perform yourself, hard as it is, be realistic about the time and materials that work will require and the time frame the project fits in. And build in a fudge factor in your budget to cover issues discovered in the middle of the project. For example, electrical wiring issues only discovered behind wall finishes.
Nyberg says Morton Buildings maintains its own work crews and uses the highest quality materials to ensure that a repair, renovation, or construction of a new building will be cost-effective and support the owner's long-term needs. For information, visit mortonbuildings.com/repairs. And now a look at the markets, and it was a pretty good week, especially in the wheat market, leading the way, soybeans strong as well, and some up and down but very positive movement in the corn market. How did we end the week? Numbers coming up. First, market analysis. I checked in right at the end of Friday trade with Bob Utterback at Utterback Marketing Services. Bob, quite a week in the markets. Mostly we saw strength. Weather markets for sure right now. And let's lead with the wheat market, which has had really a very stellar, stout run throughout the week.
We have now the lowest stocks of durum wheat in the last 60 years. There's other records, but essentially the Western Corn Belt up into the Canadian prairies, the drought is persisting. Yields are coming in abnormally low, and this is really putting a crunch on users of this for feed wheat, and that's spilling over to assist the corn. And also the extremely wet conditions in the central and eastern corn belt has some people worried about the status of the bean crop. You know, beans don't, the old saying, at least I've heard, is beans don't like wet feet, although August is what makes it. But so the wheat, and to a second degree the beans, has allowed the corn market to have a significant balance, even though the monthly supply-demand report on balance was neutral to bearish. And so the corn movement up this week has been strictly related to the influence of weather and continued anxiety of the Western Corn Belt. And it's even more remarkable in light of the poor exports this week for corn and beans. The market is still wanting to put premium to the market. The upside gaps on December corn would be 580, closing the gaps, and I think that's the short-term technical objective. And the bull spreads front and back end, if we could take these 21, 80 cents premium to 22, I would be wanting to roll any 22 hedges people have placed, rolling back to the front end. So it's an exceptional time. This is the fourth time coming to overhead resistance, and historically, you can't find very many times in history when you've tested the area for the fourth time.
Bob Utterback at Utterback Marketing Services. The number there, 800-832-1488. Here's how the markets ended: down 8 1/4 on September corn, 556, and 552 on the Dees contract, losing 4 1/4. Up 7 1/4 August soybeans, 14.54 3/4, over the $14 mark on September, and 13.91 3/4 Novi, up 11 3/4 on Friday. 20 1/2 better on September wheat, 692 1/2. Over in the meat markets, mixed, with August live cattle 120.17, 95 cents lower, and August lean hogs 105.65, up $1.35. That's the market review. I'm Andy Eubank on Hoosier Ag This Week.
We start to dry down here over the weekend. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with Hoosier Ag Today's Weekend Weather Outlook, brought to you by Seed Genetics Direct, the largest Ohio-based independent seed company and the Eastern Corn Belt's fastest-growing independent seed company. Visit seedgeneticsdirect.com for more information. Nice slug of rain came through the Hoosier State from late Thursday through yesterday. Today we're dealing with some lingering clouds from that, but generally speaking, we are done with moisture. I think we'll just see kind of the aftermath of this through your Saturday, a little bit humid across the region. We'll get full sunshine back in all areas as we move through tomorrow, although a few models are trying to suggest we see a pop-up shower or two in central and southern Indiana late tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. I'm not buying into that too harshly right now, but keep an eye to the sky if you're south of I-70. Now, next week, we are fully dry all the way through the week, Monday through Saturday. Well, at least Friday at this point. But I will say this, we are seeing an expanded upper-level ridge take control over the Great Plains, and this ridge is pushing all the way up into the Canadian prairies. You've probably heard about this. Hot, dry weather is just pounding, especially the northern plains and the Canadian prairies. Well, with this ridge arcing up into the Canadian prairies, any moisture that's wanting to try and come west to east across the country, across North America, gets pushed up north into way far northern areas of Canada, and then it has to ride this ridge back down the opposite side. It looks like that ridge is going to set up a track with the jet stream coming right across the Great Lakes through Michigan and into Ohio as we move through this upcoming week. Initially, it does nothing for us, but I do think that there could be a couple of waves of moisture that try and ride this ridge down, and that's especially going to be a story for us in two different occasions next week. First of all, Wednesday night through Thursday, probably for Michigan, not so much Indiana, but then late in the week, Saturday into Sunday, I think we're going to be seeing some showers and thunderstorms come in from the northwest, riding this backside of the ridge down into the Eastern Corn Belt. So we are fully dry Monday through Friday, but I think we need to leave the door open to thunderstorms next Saturday the 24th into Sunday the 25th. Could be anywhere from a quarter to 1 inch across the region. Decent coverage the way things look right now. However, I will say this is out there around day 8 and day 9. So there's plenty of time for things to change. I do think those thunderstorms, if they come through in that period, will set the stage for a little more activity the following week. So if you're still wanting good, timely rains for crops, it looks like we are going to get those. However, remember, thunderstorms also bring the potential for excessive rains, and we've seen some areas over the past week that have just gotten too much. You're still going to run the risk of having some strong, heavy rains as well. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Bain Welker Equipment and Case IH know the health and protection of every seed and plant contributes to your bottom line. That's why we sell Case IH sprayers at our dealerships. Designed with versatility in mind, Case IH Trident and Patriot sprayers are engineered to allow time to work for you. Get in the field earlier, cover more acres, and get more done in a short amount of time. See which sprayer is right for you. Stop in or visit Bain-Welker.com. Bain Welker Equipment, employee-owned, customer-focused. Welcome back to Hoosier Ag This Week. I'm Andy Eubank. Now on the table in Washington is new legislation that addresses recent court decisions which dealt a blow to year-round sales of E15 gasoline with a 15% blend of ethanol. The House bill is called the Year-Round Fuel Choice Act, and the Consumer and Fuel Retailer Choice Act has been introduced in the Senate. Renewable Fuels Association President and CEO Jeff Cooper spoke Wednesday morning at the International Fuel Ethanol Workshop in Des Moines of potential impacts of a Supreme Court decision on small refinery exemptions and the D.C. Circuit Court decision to reverse year-round E15 sales.
RFA, along with the National Corn Growers, the National Farmers Union, and ACE, put an enormous amount of time and energy into securing and defending that 10th Circuit ruling that had overturned small refinery exemptions. This was certainly not the result we were looking for or expecting from the Supreme Court. Likewise, RFA and the other biofuel interveners in the E15 RVP case, Growth Energy and NCGA, were looking for a decidedly different outcome in that case as well. But now that we've had more time to digest what these court rulings really mean, we think both decisions will prove to be hollow and short-lived victories for oil refiners who remain intent on keeping ethanol in an E10 box.
Senators Deb Fischer and Amy Klobuchar and U.S. Representatives Angie Craig and Adrian Smith led the effort on the new bills, and Cooper thanked them for their quick work following the July 2nd ruling of the D.C. Circuit. He said, quote, "These bills will make it abundantly clear that the intent of Congress is to allow the year-round use of lower-cost, lower-carbon, American-made E15." And Cooper added, increasing drivers' access to higher-level blends like E15 remains a top priority for RFA, and we are committed to working with these leaders in Congress and the Biden administration to make that a reality. At the workshop, Cooper was optimistic about the industry now and for the future, especially coming out of all the pandemic-related issues last year.
And even with these recent letdowns, I would argue that the ethanol industry is still in a stronger position today than we've been in for years. Our outlook remains bright, and things are not nearly as bad as the headlines or our opponents would like us to believe.
More at HoosierAgToday.com. American Farm Bureau is welcoming an executive order that will consider changes to livestock markets. The executive order issued last week by the Biden administration proposes rule changes to increase competition in livestock markets. Farm Bureau Congressional Relations Director Scott Bennett says the executive order focuses on fairness and transparency.
What we see in the executive order is much more attention being drawn to the potential for some of our livestock markets being unfair. We also see $500 million in regional packing capacity expansion, as well as $100 million for overtime relief for FSIS inspectors at small and regional packing facilities.
The executive order proposes to alter rules under the Packers and Stockyards Administration.
We know that there will be 3 proposed rules that rework competition and undue preference. While we currently don't have the text, we await the administration to publish that text, which in the executive order said would be done within the next 150 days.
Bennett says, of course, Farm Bureau will be engaged in the rulemaking process.
We do know this administration is seeking information as to how that $500 million will be spent to, in fact, expand regional packing capacity. American Farm Bureau will certainly comment and provide feedback to the administration on how that money could best be spent in order to accomplish those goals.
And now, with perspective on executive orders and what's happening in Cuba, here's former Ag Secretary John Block.
Last week, President Biden signed a broad executive order designed to ensure that we have competitive markets. We have too many huge corporations. They keep buying up their competitors and just get bigger. Smaller companies compete at a disadvantage. Biden says capitalism without competition isn't capitalism, it's exploitation. Antitrust enforcement has been a priority of the president's agenda. Use of executive orders to get something done is not new. For 20 years, our presidents, both parties, have used executive orders. President Trump was criticized for making too many executive orders. So let's take a look at what President Biden's orders could mean to the food and ag industry. Farmers and ranchers have been very vocal about the market's failure to give them the prices they feel justified, especially for beef and pork and dairy. The number of companies that sell chemicals and seed have been on a constant decline for more than 20 years. The COVID-19 pandemic reminds us that we need more processing capacity. Meat processors lost a lot of money. Secretary of Agriculture said it's time to level the playing field for farmers and ranchers. I know farmer friends of mine that had to depopulate their pigs. There wasn't anyone to process them. Just 4 meat packing companies in the United States control 80% of the beef market. 4 companies control most of the world's seed. Farmers' share of each dollar spent on food continues to decline. Farm and ranch organizations are cheering for the Biden executive orders. Even Zippity Duval, president of the American Farm Bureau, stepped up to support the president's effort. National Farmers Union is very excited. Well, I say, don't get too excited. Executive orders can be changed by the next president or by the courts. Laws passed by Congress are much more durable. Controlling these huge corporations with all their power and money will not be easy. All right, another subject we need to keep an eye on. Cuba. Wall Street protests are shaking up that communist dictatorship. So far, President Biden has not indicated how he'll react. It would be good if we had more trade with Cuba, but their government just cannot be trusted. I'm John Block from Washington.
And this is Hoosier Ag This Week.
For nearly a century, your local farmer-owned cooperative has served this community by delivering outstanding customer service, industry expertise, quality products, and leading-edge technology to our agriculture and energy partners. Today, we're committed to cultivating success in the communities we call home by providing America's farmers with the supplies and outstanding service they need to do their part to feed the world. Agronomy, liquid fuels, home heat, grain marketing, animal nutrition, feed, and more. Co-Alliance, your local farmer-owned cooperative, continues to be your resource for whatever the day, month, or season brings your way.
On Hoosier Ag This Week, I'm Andy Eubank. Another round of rain in the southern half of Indiana has been welcomed by some whose crops needed a bit more. Others already had too much and didn't want what turned into some significant rainfall. Southern Indiana DeKalb Asgrow technical agronomist Jordan Arndell says in the South, crops have been in great shape this season, with issues from too much moisture tending to be in the eastern part of the state. As for disease in soybeans, Arndell says
there are some areas that had some issues, but again, for wide and far, beans are looking really good. In fact, I was out looking for soybean diseases the other day, and they are out there, but they're minimal. So in a lot of places, we are nearing or at that R3 growth stage. So I'm starting to make a recommendation to people to go out there and make their Delaro fungicide application.
He adds, if you're on the fence about fungicides, there are the plant health benefits to consider and the good chance pressure will intensify.
We have plenty of heat. We've got a good amount of moisture, and we've got more moisture on the way. So even though we're looking pretty good right now as far as how much disease is out there, I do expect to see disease starting to move in. In fact, I did send off some samples to get some frog eye leaf spot confirmed. I don't know that it's been confirmed here in southern Indiana yet. Right now, I think is the time to be going out there and spraying, or if you're not at R3, I would be waiting for that R3 just for the longevity of the fungicide, the growth stages that it's going to be able to protect the plant.
Arndell says as you scout fields and look for insect chewing, don't be afraid to pull a couple of plants out of the ground so you can analyze all of it. Disease in cornfields could intensify too with the warm and wet conditions, and there is some disease to be found.
Big disease that everybody always looks for is southern rust. I have yet to see southern rust. I've been talking to some of my colleagues. Nobody in the territory that I'm aware of has ran into it. However, gray leaf spot, northern corn leaf blight, a few other foliar diseases are definitely apparent.
Arndell recommends a Delaro application sometime between tassel and R1. As crops move through pollination, yield estimates get more accurate, and that can have an impact on financial situations and marketing decisions. Gary Truitt explains.
When estimating your farm's break-even point this spring, you started with the average historical yield numbers you have. As we move through crop development, however, we begin to get a better idea on just exactly what your yields are going to be, and that will have financial implications, says Daniel Taylor with AgriFinancial.
As you get on into the summer months and especially closer to harvest, you're scouting fields and you've got a little bit of a better feel potentially for what some of those yields will be. I think you can update that break-even analysis with what you think your 2021 production is going to be. And what you'll notice is as you increase the potential yield that you're expecting, it's going to push that break-even cost even lower.
These updated break-even numbers will have an impact on your marketing decisions this fall.
It can help with some of those those storage decisions. Is it going to be something I'm going to put into a bin, or can I sell some bushels off the combine to raise some cash flow in the early fall? Having that break-even number in your back pocket really makes those decisions a lot easier as a producer.
Taylor says keeping your financial records up to date will give you a better and more accurate picture of your farming operation, as well as help your lender better assess your needs and creditworthiness. I'm Gary Truitt.
There's a new network for wheat growers to learn more about production. Ashley Davenport has some of the details.
Winter wheat growers in the Great Lakes region can now apply to be part of the Great Lakes Yield Enhancement Network.
It's a network that allows these growers to interact with other growers as well as agribusiness and researchers to learn more about their wheat crop, what their yield potential is, and maybe identify some reasons why maybe they didn't achieve a higher percentage of their yield potential.
That's Dennis Pennington, Wheat Extension Specialist with Michigan State University. The Yield Enhancement Network, or YEN, is a global series of regional networks to collect data to help growers learn more about wheat production.
We collect a tremendous amount of data, not only from their agronomic practices, all the way from what variety do they plant, what seeding rate do they seed their wheat at, but all the way through nitrogen applications, fungicide applications. We collect tissue samples at 2 different growth stages. We collect a grab sample at harvest and a grain sample. So they're going to get a whole bunch of information reported back to them.
This data will be used as a benchmark as a way to compare with other wheat growers in the Great Lakes region, including growers in Ontario.
It broadens the scope of the project to the point where we can get some additional people and expertise coming to the table for this whole project.
Pennington says anyone interested in wheat production is encouraged to apply.
You don't have to be somebody that is out there strictly to win the contest. We encourage people to be competitive, of course, but yet if all you want to do is just learn more about your wheat crop and how to manage it and be a better manager on your farm, this would be a great opportunity for you.
Applications will be accepted from growers bordering the Great Lakes until August 15th. If you are interested, we have a link on this story on our website.
Thanks, Ashley, and that would be HoosierAgToday.com. I'm Andy Eubank. Have a great weekend and stay up to date with Indiana agriculture throughout the weekend and the coming week at HoosierAgToday.com and on this Hat station. This is Hoosier Ag Today, Indiana's leading farm network.